Demosthenes' trial defense. Accursed scribbler, you to deprive me of the approbation and affection of my countrymen, speak of trophies and battles and ancient deeds, with none of which had this present trial the least concern. But I, you third-rate actor, I that rose to counsel the state how to maintain her preeminence, in what spirit was I to mount the hustings? In the spirit of one having unworthy counsel to offer? I should have deserved to perish. Of what a statesman may be responsible for, I allow the utmost scrutiny. I depreciate it not. What are his functions? To observe things in the beginning, to foresee and foretell them to others. This I have done. Again, wherever he finds delays, backwardness, ignorance, jealousies, vices inherent and unavoidable in all communities, to contract them into the narrowest compass, and on the other hand, to promote unanimity and friendship and zeal in the discharge of duty. All this, too, I have performed, and no one can discover the least neglect on my part. Ask any man by what means Philip achieved most of his successes, and you will be told, by his army, by his bribing and corrupting men in power. Well, your forces were not under my command or control, so that I cannot be questioned for anything done in that department. But by refusing the price of corruption, I have overcome Philip. For as the offer of a bribe, if it be accepted, has vanquished the taker, so the person who refuses it and is not corrupted has vanquished the person offering. Therefore is the Commonwealth undefeated as far as I am concerned. For my part, I regard anyone who reproaches his fellow man with fortune as devoid of sense. He that is best satisfied with his condition, he that deems his fortune excellent, cannot be sure that it will remain so until the evening. How then can it be right to bring it forward, or upbraid another man with it? As Aeschines, however, has on the subject, beside many others, expressed himself with insolence, look, men of Athens, and observe how much more truth and humanity there shall be in my discourse upon fortune than in his. I hold the fortune of our commonwealth to be good, and so I find the oracles of Dodonarian Jupiter and Pythian Apollo declaring to us, the fortune of all mankind, which now prevails, I consider cruel and dreadful. For what Greek, what barbarian, has not in these times experienced a multitude of evils? That Athens chose the noblest policy, that she fares better than those very Greeks who thought they abandoned us, they should abide in prosperity. I reckon as part of her good fortune, if she suffered reverses, if all happened not to us as we desired, I conceive she has had that share of the general fortune which fell to our lot. As to my fortune, personally speaking, or that of any individual among us, it should, as I conceive, be judged of in connection with personal matters. Such is my opinion upon the subject of fortune, a right and just one, as it appears to me, and I think you will agree with it. Aeschines says that my individual fortune is paramount to that of the commonwealth, small and mean to the good and great. How can this possibly be? However, if you are determined, Aeschines, to scrutinize my fortune, compare it with your own, and if you find my fortune better than yours, cease to revile it. Look then, from the very beginning, and I pray and entreat that I may not be condemned for bad taste. I don't think any person wise who insults poverty or who prides himself on having been bred in affluence, but by the slander and malice of this cruel man I am forced into such a discussion, which I will conduct with all the moderation which circumstances allow. I had the advantage, Aeschines, in my boyhood, of going to proper schools, and having such allowance as a boy should have, who is to do nothing mean from indigence. Arrived at a man's estate, I lived suitably to my breeding, was choirmaster, ship commander, ratepayer, backward in no acts of liberty, public or private, but making myself useful to the commonwealth and to my friends. When I entered upon state affairs, I chose such a line of politics that both by my country and by many people of Greece I have been crowned many times, and not even you, my enemies, venture to say that the line I chose was not honorable. Such, then, has been the fortune of my life. I could enlarge upon it, but I forbear, lest what I pride myself in should give offense. But you, the man of dignity, who spit upon others, look what sort of fortune is yours, compared with mine. As a boy, you were reared in abject poverty, waiting with your father in his school, grinding the ink, sponging the benches, sweeping the room, doing the duty of a menial rather than a free-born man. After you were grown up, you attended your mother in the initiations, reading her books and helping in all the ceremonies, at night wrapping the novitiates in fawn skin, swilling, purifying, and scouring them with clay and bran. But passing over what may be imputed to poverty, I will come to the direct charges against your character. You espouse such a line of politics, when at last you thought of taking to them, that if your country prospered, you lived the life of a hare, fearing and trembling, and ever expecting to be scourged for the crimes of which your conscience accused you. Though all have seen how bold you were during the misfortunes of the rest. A man who took courage at the death of 1,000 citizens, what does he deserve at the hands of the living? A great deal more than I could say about him, I shall admit. For it is not all I can tell of his turpitude and infamy which I ought to let slip from my tongue, but only what is not disgraceful to myself to mention. Contrast now the circumstances of your life and mine, gently and with temper, Aeschines, and then ask these people whose fortune they would each of them prefer. You taught reading, I went to school. You performed initiations, I received them. You danced in the chorus, I furnished it. You were assembly clerk, I was a speaker. You acted third parts, I heard you. You broke down, and I hissed. You have worked as a statesman for the enemy, I for my country. I passed by the rest, but this very day I am on my probation for a crown, and am acknowledged to be innocent of all offense, while you are already judged to be a pettifogger, and the question is whether you shall continue the trade or at once be silenced by not getting a fifth part of the votes. A happy fortune, do you see? You have enjoyed. You should denounce mine as miserable. You undertook this cause to exhibit your eloquence and strength of lungs, not to obtain satisfaction for any wrong. But it is not the language of an orator, Aeschines, that has any value, nor yet the tone of his voice, but by adopting the same views with the people, and his hating and loving the same persons that his country does. He that is thus minded will say everything with loyal intention. He that courts persons from whom the commonwealth apprehends danger to herself rides not in the same anchorage with the people, and, therefore, has not the same expectation of safety. But, do you see? I have, for my objects are the same with those of my countrymen. I have no interests separate or distinct. Is that so with you? How can it be, when immediately after the battle you went as ambassador to Philip, who was at that period the author of your country's calamities, notwithstanding that you had persisted in refusing that office, as all men know? And who is it that deceives the state? Surely the man who speaks, not what he thinks. On whom does the crier pronounce a curse? Surely on such a man. When greater crime can an orator be charged with than his opinions and his language are not the same? Such is found to be your character. And yet you open your mouth and dare to look at these men in the faces. Do you think they don't know you? Or are you sunk in such slumber and oblivion as to not remember the speeches which you delivered in the assembly, cursing and swearing that you had nothing to do with Philip, and that I brought that charge against you out of personal enmity without foundation? No sooner came the news of the battle than you forgot all that. You acknowledged and avowed that between Philip and yourself there subsisted a relation of hospitality and friendship. New names these for your contract of hire. For upon what plea of equality or justice could Aeschines, son of Glaucothea, the timbrel player, be the friend or acquaintance of Philip? I cannot see. No, you were hired to ruin the interests of your countrymen. And yet, though you have been caught yourself in open treason, and informed against yourself after the fact, you revile and reproach me for things which you will find any man is chargeable with sooner than I. Many great and glorious enterprises has the Commonwealth, Aeschines, undertaken and succeeded in through me, and she did not forget them. Here is the proof. On the election of a person to speak the funeral oration immediately after the event, you were proposed, but the people would not have you. Notwithstanding your fine voice, nor Demosthenes, though he had just made the peace, nor Hegemon, nor any other of your party, but me. And when you and Pythocles came forward in a brutal and shameful manner, O merciful heaven, and urged the same accusations against me which you now do, and abused me, they elected me all the more. The reason, you are not ignorant of it, yet I will tell you. The Athenians knew well the loyalty and zeal with which I conducted these affairs, as the dishonesty of you and your party. For what you denied upon oath in our prosperity, you confessed in the misfortunes of the Republic. They considered, therefore, that men who got security for their politics by the public disasters had been their enemies long before, and were then avowedly such. They thought it right also that the person who was to speak in honor of the fallen and celebrate their valor should not have sat under the same roof or at the same table with their antagonists, that he should not reveal there and sing a paean over the calamities of Greece in company with their murderers, and then come here and receive distinction, that he should not with his voice act the mourner of their fate, but that he should lament over them with his heart. This they perceived in themselves and in me, but not in any of you. Therefore they elected me and not you. There is indeed a retirement just and beneficial to the state, such as you, the bulk of my countrymen, innocently enjoy. That, however, is not the retirement of Demosthenes, far from it. Withdrawing himself from public life when he pleases, and that is often, he watches for the moment when you are tired of a constant speaker, or when some reverse of fortune has befallen you, or anything untoward has happened, and many are the casualties of human life. At such a crisis he springs up an orator, rising from his retreat like a wind, in full voice, with words and phrases collected, he rolls them out audibly and breathlessly, to no advantage or good purpose whatsoever, but to the detriment of some or other of his fellow citizens, and to the general disgrace. Yet from this labor and diligence, Demosthenes, if it proceeded from an honest heart, solicitous for your country's welfare, the fruit should have been rich and noble and profitable to all. Alliances of states, supplies of money, conveniences of commerce, enactment of useful laws, opposition to our declared enemies. All such things were looked for in former times, and many opportunities did the past afford for a good man and true to show himself, during which time you are nowhere to be found, neither first, second, third, fourth, fifth, nor sixth, nor in any rank at all, certainly on no service by which your country was exalted. For what alliance has come to the state by your procurement? What succors, what acquisition of good will or credit? What embassy or agency is there of yours, by which the reputation of the country has been increased? What concern, domestic, Hellenic, or foreign, of which you have had the management, has improved under it? What galleys? What ammunition? What arsenals? What repair of walls? What cavalry? What in the world are you good for? What assistance in money have you ever given, either to the rich or to the poor, out of the public spirit or liberality? None. My politics and principles, if considered fairly, will be found to resemble those of the illustrious ancients, and to have had the same objects in view, while yours resemble those of their calumniators. For it is certain that they were persons in those times who ran down the living and praised people dead and gone with a malignant purpose like yourself. Two things, men of Athens, are characteristic of a well-disposed citizen. So may I speak of myself and give the least offense. In authority, his constant aim should be the dignity and preeminence of the commonwealth. In all times and circumstances, his spirit should be loyal. This depends upon nature, power, and might, upon other things. Such a spirit, you will find, I have ever sincerely cherished. Only see. When my person was demanded, when they brought amphictyonic suits against me, when they menaced, when they promised, when they set these miscreants like wild beasts upon me, Never in any way have I abandoned my affection for you. From the very beginning I chose an honest and straightforward course in politics, to support the honor, the power, the glory of my fatherland. These to exalt, in these to have been my being. I do not walk about the marketplace, gay and cheerful, because the stranger has prospered, holding out my right hand and congratulating those who I think will report it yonder. And on any news of our own success, shudder and groan and stoop to the earth, like these impious men, who rail at Athens, as if doing so they did not rail at themselves, who look abroad, and if the foreigner thrives by the distress of Greece, are thankful for it, and say we should keep him so thriving to all time. Never, O ye gods, may these wishes be confirmed by you. If possible, inspire even in these men a better sense and feeling. But if they are indeed incurable, destroy them by themselves. Exterminate them on land and sea. For the rest of us, grant that we may speedily be released from our present fears, and enjoy a lasting deliverance.